Welcome to Believe in the Entrepreneur, where the mission is to tell the story of the entrepreneur and how they overcame the obstacles in life and in business to get where they are today. All right. Today I've got Hector Vargas in the house. Hector, thanks for being on my show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Joe.
Yeah, of course. So Hector is actually a solar consultant. He's been in the solar industry since 2009. He grew up and was raised here in the city of Bakersfield, graduated from East High School, attended Bakersfield College, where he studied business administration, and then he got into sales. And he's been in sales for over 20 years and started being in the solar industry since 2009. So he has over 13 years of experience. So we want to make sure you hit up Hector for any solar needs. But Hector, tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me a little bit about what made you interested in sales, if you want to just take it back since you have over 20 years experience.
Yeah, sure. The reason why I got into sales is kind of, because of my dad. My dad's been in sales his whole life. There were business owners ever since he was, a child. So he got brought into sales. And that's something that I wanted to go into, being your own boss, being, an entrepreneur, so that's something I was always high interest in as a kid. So as soon as I, came out of, high school, I was like, okay, I need to learn about business. So that's why I went into business administration and then getting into sales type environment jobs. So that I was always driven to the sales environment because I like, helping, people, customers, and problem solving.
For sure. Yeah. I think sales, it's your income's unlimited, and at the same time you're solving problems, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. So what made you transition into solar? You've been in solar for 13 years.
Yeah.
So what made you interested in that industry?
At the time, I was doing sales for the Bakersfield, California here locally, and I was doing displayed ads for customers. Just like yourself, restaurants, just business owners. So it was outside sales, and I came across from a buddy of mine who I played rugby with. And he's one of the pioneers here in town. His name is Jeff Pereira, who had Sun Solar, and then he has his own company. But he is actually the one who brought me into the industry. We've been friends for years, and he says, "Hey, there's a new industry that I'm getting into. It's sales driven. It's going to be the next thing, and trust me, it's going to be an industry that's going to be here for a long period of time, for like 30 to 40 years." So at the time, I wasn't really believing him, but I took the risks, and here I am 13 years later, still doing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that solar, he was right. It's blown up, especially, if you go to the gas pump, right?
Right.
Gas prices are just crazy high. And then, electric vehicles are now kind of starting to become more popular. And obviously you can start, like for me, for example, I've got a Tesla and I put solar on my house, so I get to charge for free.
Right.
It's like, man, I don't feel the pain on the gas unless I have to fill up my wife's. I haven't convinced her to buy a Tesla yet, but
right. You're paying cents versus paying dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So tell me a little bit about, if someone is interested in solar, when do you know, like, how do you start your consultations? Tell me a little bit about your process.
Yeah. So the process is very basic and simple. Someone reaches out to us and is like, "Hey, Hector, I'm, interested in solar. For the past year, my bills have been, increasing. Summer months, I'm paying over $300, $400, $500. Everybody's it's case by case because everybody has a different lifestyle. But we live in the Central Valley. It's hot for 4 or 5 months out of the year. So, everybody has bills over $200. So basically what we do is we get what's called kilowatt hour usage for 1 year. Based on that, we get all that data, we put it in our system, we create a system, and then from that point, we know how many panels they're going to need, and how much we're going to offset of their current bill to eliminate their current utility costs.
Gotcha. Now, can you explain to me the kilowatts? Because like for someone that doesn't understand solar, like I don't understand kilowatts, and I just know I get a PG&E bill, and I know if I use more electricity, I get a bigger bill, and if I spend, I'll try to. Before I had solar, it's like, all right, let me put my AC down. I'll be a little bit hot, but it's going to lower my bill. So how do the kilowatts, like, how do you read those? Like, how do you know, if how much you're spending? How does that, like, how does a PG&E bill compare to solar? Like, how do you compare the two?
Yeah. So PG&E meters your kilowatt hour usage on an hourly, daily, and monthly. So at the end of the, monthly cycle with PG&E, you'll have an amount that's there. So an average, say in the summer months, someone's always between 1,200 to 1,500 kilowatt hours. So once you get solar, those kilowatt hours dropped to less. You can be anywhere between 40, 50 kilowatt hours that you're actually producing during the day, but it'll eliminate those high kilowatt hour usage. So yes, you're just like every consumer, just like myself. I didn't know how to read a PG&E bill, until I got into this industry. Everybody just grabs it, pays it. Hey, like I just have to pay it. I just pay. But what I do, and is I educate you how to read your PG&E bill, what you're actually paying, what they charge you on your tiers versus what you're going to be paying with having solar.
Gotcha. And then, I actually, there's also, I didn't even know this, there's a true up at the end of the year. Like,
correct.
So like, for example, here at my office, I pay like $10 a month, just to have basically my PG&E account active. And then, when I got my true up bill, here at the office, it was like, $1,800. And I was like, what the heck? I was super, I didn't really know. So I had like my solar guy at the time, kind of take a look, and he's like, hey, well, you basically spent double the amount of energy compared to when, I sold you the amount of panels that you had. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. So can you explain like the true up and how that works?
Yeah. So once you go solar, you're no longer a regular customer of PG&E. So you just pay one lump sum at the end of the year, which is the true bill. So everything that you are producing throughout the year, PG&E is tracking that, and you'll have one lump sum true bill. So your true bill here can be, $1,100, $1,200, but that's for the whole year. So versus having $600, $700, $800 for just 1 month. So a true bill, it'll calculate everything that the system is actually generating and putting back into PG&E's grid or SCE, whoever you may have. So that calculates your whole true bill cost for the full amount of the full year.
Gotcha. And what about like in my house, my true up was actually, I didn't get a true up, like it was $0. So I feel that I have probably more panels than I need to.
Yeah. So whoever designed your system actually did a really good job. So they probably eliminated your bill over 110% of offsetting what you were currently using. So they probably gave you at least 1,500 to about 2,000 kilowatt hour over. In that case, you can live more comfortably, not be so conservative and being like, oh, I can't use that much power. But they did offset and design your system accordingly to future usage, which is good because you have no true bill in your bills. You're probably in a negative, I would assume.
Yeah. So does that mean like if I'm producing more, because I purchased them, basically I paid them cash.
Yeah.
So if I'm producing more than basically I need to, does PG&E give me a credit or does what happens?
Yeah, PG&E. So whatever you're not using, PG&E will credit you that back at the end of the year when your true-up bill is due. So currently what PG&E is doing, they're paying you anywhere between 3 to 4 cents back on anything that was overproduced and you put back into their grid. So that goes throughout the whole year. So when your true-up bill is due, that's when you kind of meet them in the middle. They'll see how much power you put back into their grid, and they'll pay you back 3 to 4 cents, depending on how much kilowatt hours you put back into their grid. In that case, if your true bill was higher than what it was, it'll just probably cut it in half, and that's what you'll owe at that moment.
Gotcha. So are you, if I understand you correctly, basically it's better to have over like more panels than under.
Right, because I'm coming to across a lot of situations now, folks that were installed about 3 or 4 years ago that they were undersized with their systems. So now their true-up bills are anywhere between $1,500, $2,000. I've even seen $3,000 for their true-up bill. So a lot of cases that I'm seeing now that I'm coming across is additional second systems to eliminate what they're currently using now, and that's having solar.
Gotcha. And then also there's obviously tax benefits as well to buying solar. And one of the things that, is going to be going away is, the tax credit. Currently it's 26%.
Yeah, 26%.
Of whatever you buy. Next year it's going to go down to 22%. And then by 2024, I think it's 0% goes away.
It goes away completely. When I originally got into this industry, it was at 30%. It was at 30% for over 10 years. That's why a lot of folks were, buying it cash. When I originally got into this industry, there was no type of financing. There was no lease programs. It was, straight up cash purchase systems. And at the time, systems were a lot more expensive. People were spending close to $100,000 on these systems. They didn't know what solar really was. all they knew was it was going to save them money,
Right.
but they were paying fully cash. Now solar's more affordable than it has ever been. That's why it's gotten more popular, and you see it everywhere now, even in commercial buildings and, you know, in structures and everywhere else that you go around. Just because solar is more affordable, there's better purchase options out there. There's more financing for solar, and a lot of people are taking advantage of the tax credit. They're seeing owning a system is better than leasing it or having a PPA as well in it.
Yeah, so if you want to buy solar, then this is the year to buy it, because you're going to basically take advantage of the tax credit.
Correct.
Where next year it's going to be less.
Less.
And then by 2024, we don't even know if it's going to even
Yeah,
exist.
it's up to Congress if they're going to extend that out or not. You know, that's something we have no control on.
For sure. And then one of the things that I think is interesting, like you said, like it used to be everyone just bought it cash, but now
Right.
there's financing available. So can you tell me a little bit about, you know, I heard people lease, some people do, I think it's called PSAs. Or,
PPA, yeah.
Oh, PPA.
What that stands for is called Power Purchase Agreement. It's just another easy way of saying it as a lease. So a PPA, what they do is they lock you in at a certain cents per kilowatt, but only when you're using those high tiers, then that's when your solar system actually really kicks in. And that's where you're going to get locked in. So a lot of companies out there lock you in anywhere between 12, 13, 14 cents per kilowatt that you're going to be producing when you're on a PPA. On a lease, you're on a flat payment for whatever amount that you're agreeing upon that lease, and it stays there for the term of your lease. So on a purchase, the return on investment, depending on the cost of the system, is anywhere between 7 to 8 years on the return of your investment. But the good thing about that, you do get the 26% tax credit. Now, on a PPA and a lease, you do not get a 26% tax credit because basically you do not own the system. The companies that are installing the systems are the owners. So basically what you're doing, you're just renting out your roof to these companies, and you're just paying a lowered amount on your electrical costs.
So if you want to get the tax credit, then you need to purchase,
correct.
And not lease or do a PPA.
Yeah, because now, and there's nothing wrong with PPAs and leases at all. Everybody's different case. You know, for some people, those programs, you know, are their best option to do it because not everybody has a tax credit appetite.
Right.
But if you don't have a tax credit appetite, then that will be your option to go solar still, but you're just not owning the system at this point.
Yeah, it makes sense because sometimes you don't have a tax liability. Like your main concern is just, I just want to lower my bill.
Yes.
So when would you recommend, like if someone, like how do you make the recommendation about in your case, let's purchase, or in your case, let's do a PPA, or in your case, let's do a lease? Like how do you make that recommendation?
So I you got to ask questions. You ask are you currently working? It's you and your wife that are working. What are you guys making a year? You know, combined income. Or if it's, hey, I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income. I have limited in what I need to spend, but I do still have income, which I report into taxes, but I don't think a purchase will be the best option for me. And most customers are pretty upfront and honest with you on that. But that's when we determine how we're going to approach it for them to go solar.
Gotcha. So basically the monthly payment is different for each option.
It's a different option. But the thing is now with a lot of purchase financing options, we're seeing a lot of payments like under $100 now.
Really?
With low interest rates. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So even the interest rates are low as well.
Yeah.
So
We have a program within our company. We have an interest rate of 0.99%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty much free.
Basically at that point.
Yeah.
It's lower than a car interest rate.
Now that could be a great, tax strategy, because what I teach my clients is like, how can a lot of people, they'll spend $3 to save $1, but I tell them it's better to save $1 to save $3. So like what I tell so in this way, if you're going to if you can finance the solar panels for 0.99%, that means you're pretty much getting it for free. And then let's say you buy it in December. Right. And let's say it costs you $30,000, 26% is roughly, $7,000-8,000 that you can get as a tax credit. And let's say you finance it at 0.99%. Let's say your monthly payment, so you can be up to less than $100 a month. Well, you can get an $8,000 credit on your taxes and you only paid $100 a month.
Correct.
I mean, the return on investment is huge.
The return on your investment is within that same year because. So say you do get your system installed this year, right? Mm-hmm. You'll report it to the next following tax year, tax season. So at that point, they'll come to you, say, I'm, the consumer. You do my taxes, and say, Joe, last year I purchased a solar system. My consultant told me I'm going to get a 26% tax credit. Here's my contract. Here's my agreement. Am I going to get, this, 26% tax credit? So they come to you.
Right.
And you mean based on their tax, liability and where they're at, then you will break it down to them at that moment.
For sure. Then how often, because a lot of, I've seen sales consultants where like they try to give tax advice, because obviously there's a tax credit, but like what do you recommend that someone like reach out to their tax advisor, like, if they're considering purchasing solar panels?
Right. So right away, what I do, if they're going to agree upon moving forward with our company and myself, I always give them, their agreement, email it to them, and I tell them, hey, get in contact with your CPA. I am not a tax professional. However, I do break it down enough for them to understand how it works, but not in depth so much where I don't know what they write off, what they report in taxes and everything else. That's the CPA's job, and that's what you can do for your customers, because realistically, that's how I approach it all the time.
Yeah, so you definitely you want to make sure that if you're buying solar panels, that you basically talk to your CPA.
Your CPA.
Because, I've actually come across, business owners that they think that they're going to get a 26% credit. I'm like, you don't even have a tax liability. Like, you lost money.
Right.
And so, yes, you do have a credit, but you're not going to see it.
Right. And then the tax credits, you're able to get it, it's there for 5 years. Most customers get it within the first year. Why? They want to pay down that system and de-amortize their loan to bring down that payment, because it starts off at a certain amount, the payment for the first 18 months. But once you get that tax credit, you put that back into your loan. So it de-amortizes that loan, brings out the cost, and it stays flat with which term that you went with to purchase your system. But I always recommend to talk to the CPA right away. If they're 100% moving forward with it, that's the number one thing I always recommend for them. Just like you had that situation. Not everybody has that tax credit appetite.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned an interesting thing, because you can basically reinvest your tax credit back to the solar company to reduce the monthly payment. And there's times where you can just keep it, right?
Right. I always tell all my customers, listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. This is your money. But what 90% of my customers do is put it back to the loan. Why? Because you do want to see your return on your investment fast as possible and keep a lower payment as the term of the loan, whichever you approach.
Gotcha. And what would you say is like the percentage of people who buy them cash versus finance? Like what do you see?
Nowadays is about 80 to 85% people are purchasing them.
Okay. And they're financing?
They're financing it. And these systems, 100% finance systems. And good thing about our loans that we offer to within our company, these are transferable loans as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So say you're in the house, you bought a system this year, but you're going to move it within the next 3 years. Next homeowner who's interested in your house can apply for that loan and keep the same payment that you were paying and the same savings that you were having.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And but they have to qualify for the loan?
Correct.
Okay. So if they don't qualify for the loan, then what happens?
So if they don't qualify for your loan, it's just like, any transaction, we have to, the homeowners is going to have to wait until they find a qualified, home buyer that's going to qualify for both. But if you're qualifying for a large amount of, 300, which is almost, most homes nowadays, right? I'm pretty sure they can qualify for, anywhere between a $15,000, $25,000 system. And credit criteria is not as high. It's just like almost like a home loan. Credit criteria just has to be, depending on what bank has, just has to be over 640.
That's cool. So I actually didn't know that. So you can actually transfer your loans.
Right.
Yeah. So like, for example, I was thinking about buying solar panels like 5-6 years ago. And I was like, no, I don't want to, because I'm going to end up moving.
Yeah.
But now if you can transfer the loan, there's really nothing.
Yeah. Most loans are transferable. A lot of solar companies do offer transferable loans, which is good. And it makes sense. And it's the best thing of it, because, or in that case, if they do not want the system, they just have to sell it within the purchase price, as well.
Oh, nice. And what cities and, what areas do you serve?
Well, I serve currently here, all Kern County, and I go as north of Sacramento and south as San Diego, and which includes LA area and then the Inland Empire as well.
Oh, nice. And so if someone wants to get a hold of you, Hector, what's the best way they can contact you?
My direct line is, they can call me, My direct line is 661-547-0418, or by email, which is hvargas@fusionenergy.com.
Awesome, Hector. Now, is there anything, that you think that my listeners that we haven't covered that you think would be valuable?
Yeah, I mean, if you have considered, going solar within the last 2 years, few months, especially this month, the beginning of this month, PG&E increased their rates by 9%, which a lot of folks this year they're gonna see that the increase in their PG&E bills. And we live in California. We have a drought. It's going to be a hot summer
for sure.
And I mean, it's already 80 today here,
right? And
we're just in at the end of March,
right,
the beginning of spring. So you can imagine when we're like in June and July, ACs are going to be cranking. So if you're considering going solar, now is the time, and it's more affordable to own it with the 26% tax credit, which is the last year of that. So that's something that you should take advantage and approach it. Free consultation doesn't cost you anything. So if you're really interested, you can get in contact with me.
Awesome. And definitely reach out to your CPA about the tax credit.
And ask your tax, if you're considering, you think based on your tax, how you do your taxes, I would highly suggest reach out to your CPA and see what they suggest, if that's going to be a way to approach getting solar. If not, there's other options as well.
For sure. And I think, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is like with gas prices going up, people, investing into electric vehicles. And I think by 2030, I think Governor Newsom said we're going to be required to have electric vehicles. So it's like, might as well have solar panels on your house. So that way you could basically charge for free the way I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's feeling the pain at the gas pump. And, thankfully for me, driving a Tesla, I don't have a gas bill. I don't have an electric bill. I mean, and then I got a 26% tax credit. I mean, if you strategize things correctly, you could save a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, and you got a rebate as well by going electric with the state of California.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I didn't mention
the San Joaquin Valley.
That's right.
They gave you that rebate as well.
That's awesome. So you gave us your phone number, Hector. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
I appreciate you inviting me here today. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And I think, if someone's considering solar, make sure to hit up Hector. He's the man to hit up. And again, thank you for being on the show, Hector.
Thank you.